General Capasso, good morning. I would like to thank you on behalf of my General Manager for the invitation on the AFCEA event. Ladies and gentlemen, sirs, I'd like to provide you a short briefing about where NATO is with NATO cloud adoption, and what the activities we are doing with that. Hopefully that can contribute to the success of the event today. My name is Valle. I am a Principal Cloud Service Engineer working in the CTO office of the NCIA agency. The agency is accountable for the provision, operation and procurement of ICT services, portfolio of €1.5 billion in support of operations and exercises. Therefore, it's important to mention about this presentation that our approach is based mainly on 3 dimensions: people, process and technology. That's where the transformation is happening, and that's where my slide deck is going through. Process first. We realized that our governance, directives, policies were not ready yet for cloud adoption. They were traditional IT oriented, as we all know. So what we did in NATO, and specifically what the nations decide, the NAC approved cloud computing policy. That's 2017, and this policy is setting the scene for cloud adoption. It's really our cloud-first strategy. So whenever NATO is procuring services, NATO needs to look at cloud first. Cloud computing first in terms of technology, and then anything else. Interesting to note over here that the 12 principles in this policy covers the cloud first, but as well what to deploy into cloud in terms of data sensitivity. And we're looking at active NATO restricted in public cloud and a hybrid cloud, and NATO confidential, NATO secret above. But the policy for NATO is a strategic document. So after that, we were busy implementing a directive where implementation guidelines, roles and responsibility are defined to facilitate and enable adoption, because there is an organizational and cultural change to address, and other aspects such as security. Talking about security, that gives me the possibility to mention the third bullet over here, the most important one. That's a directive we are writing with NATO nations, with NATO Office of Security, for the C3 board, and it's the technical directive for public cloud security. Now here, we are trying to define what control domain and security measures are necessary to address in order to be able eventually to deploy NATO restricted workloads in the public hybrid cloud. It's a long process. We will be successful, we will see. At the moment, this directive is also allowing NATO classified deployment into the public cloud. NATO classified for us is a classification which represents integrity and confidentiality of data. It is not that we can leave it everywhere, as we know, right? Therefore, this directive, first anew by the end of the year, and we will be able then to deploy a new workload to public cloud. And then next year we start working at the inert bit of the house. It's a security, data protection, law enforcement, control measures, security operations, all the aspects we know about that. Last but not least, we in the NCIA agency use it for our strategy. Our strategy is based mainly, and it's also a little bit disruptive. We have really adopted an experimentation, migration, transformation approach. So cloud computing requires knowledge and understanding. So the experimentation gave us the understanding of what it is, what it means using cloud computing services, both off-prem and on-prem. But NATO has a big challenge. We refer to that as the combat cloud. Recently, my general manager was at the NATO Industry Forum, and then he talked a lot about combat cloud in his panel. We need to connect 28 cloud platforms eventually, because 28 nations go in operations with NATO. And this is changing a lot the way our systems are to be implemented. Data, AI, machine learning, they are part of nowadays life already in our house as technology. We military cannot ignore that, right? The challenge here for us, again, process, is interoperability and standard. Under the Federated Mission Network initiative by ACT, the standard and interoperability are essential for NATO and NATO nations to interoperate and operate in support of operational exercise within an open cloud architecture framework. So it's really visionary, but we need to move there. Gives me the possibility, these 2 slides introduction about the process, to talk about the way we see it in NATO, based on the policy and the directive, the deployment of cloud. We see public hybrid cloud for business IT. What do we mean by business IT? Whatever is NATO classified at present can deploy there. It's not easy, it's very challenging, requires lots of things to be in place, but we want to move our application landscape, ERP system, HR, all these business IT-oriented solutions that require on-prem investment in hardware, software, traditional IT, obsolete, lack of digitalization and transformation because of that. Therefore, that's where we see the deployment of public hybrid cloud. On top of it is also to mention that, and it's ready to combat cloud. Well, but where are enemies nowadays? They're also in internet, right? They're on Facebook, on Twitter. The data is there. We need to have advanced data, artificial intelligence, machine learning solutions that can go to the public cloud and understand what's going on. Eventually, again, in support of operational exercise. The private cloud operational IT, that's where we want to be command and control, C4ISR. So private. NATO on private cloud is not an easy one for NATO. We are very small, 26,000 people. We cannot afford an AWS data center or an Azure data center, potentially like nations eventually can do, like the US is doing. US has a gov cloud with an AWS region. This is $1.5 billion. NATO can afford that. So our private cloud approach will have to be hybrid, in the sense that we need to use what is available in the market, and for instance there are disconnected clouds, such as, for instance, Azure from Microsoft or others, together with data center IT oriented in a multi-cloud hybrid mode that would allow us to leverage orchestration, speed, digitalization and innovation. The third one, and that's really going towards the approach of multi-cloud, multi-security level. This strategy, right? It's the autonomous cloud and edge. And this is disconnect, this is an advanced party, right? Disconnect in the field, fighting, and they need IT, they need data, they need edge cloud, right? The NATO has procured, as a deployed with CIS, a new version of it, that's from Thales. It's a box, and inside that, there is all these elements, cloud-based, orchestration, deployment, applications. But this has been based on a DCIS Cube cloud architecture. What is this? This has been a partnership within industry and NATO on defining the architecture for DCIS. That has lasted 2-3 years. That architecture has been used in procurement for the NATO DCIS solution. Last but not least, back to federations, where NATO has really quite a strong concern. I'm moving with this slide on the people and security aspect of the house. We've talked about processes, now the people. We assume that the technology bit is solved for us. Industry has solved the technology for us. If we want to adopt that technology, we need first to organize ourselves, internally, knowledge, skills, and also organizationally wide, who's doing what, in order to understand and adopt technology. The risk here, without this transformation, we don't understand what means security in the cloud. We do not understand what means protecting data in the cloud. We don't have the right skills and knowledge to interpret, analyze, and provide solutions on top of it. So the organization and the people are very important. For instance, I'm making an example. This is the cloud share responsibility model, especially on security. Because with cloud computing IT, we're sharing the protection of our data with industry. We are introducing the NATO cloud service provider and the commercial cloud service provider roles within our organization. Because in the end, NATO is procuring cloud services from industry, but then has to translate them, manage them, govern them, deal with the costs and everything, and in the end provide to our soldiers cloud services. Therefore, this is an organizational change that we are doing. And depending on the level of services you use in the cloud, from IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, and below, then you need to be adaptive and go for it. So this has been our biggest experience, and we are very busy with that, the organizational change. As I said before, the agency on behalf of NATO has approached an experimentation, migration, transformation strategy on cloud. Starting from 2016, we have started building cloud solutions with Amazon and Azure mainly. I'm making two examples here for the sake of time. I hope I'm still okay for it. But the NATO Software Factory. So we have decided to move over 600 software engineers and integration testers to the public cloud in a platform that we build, design, protect, and operate. This platform is secure, is going under security accreditation of the NATO Office of Security for data up to NATO classified with administrative marking. Therefore, our teams can take advantage of agile application development, integration, testing as early as possible, not in the field, right? We have our command and control system in the field with a problem, it's too late. We need to find it out before. In order to do that, we need to use cloud computing technology. And the NATO Software Factory is our platform that we do also with industry, because we procure from industry. Industry is developing applications for us. But they're doing it in the NATO Software Factory of NATO, together with NATO, to ensure that interoperability, reuse of existing solutions are early stage when a capability is procured. So the factory is very important to ensure that we procure from industry, and that we are with industry from the moment that the requirement is defined till it's implemented. The software factory is going towards that solution. The other one, it's an operational use case. The Markham had a necessity to perform operations in the sea with NGOs, with other, and had the need to have a collaboration platform, right, to communicate for that operation. So we deployed a Microsoft 365 solution for Markham, right, and they're using that on board, off board, on ship, everywhere to communicate, collaborate. Last but not least, that was essential during COVID-19, right? Cloud has been an incredible opportunity for during COVID pandemic. We were operational just because of that. Main takeaway, we need to understand and be with industry. That's the NATO and the NCIA agency approach together, right? In order to improve the federation and interoperability of NATO C4ISR that will interface with national C4ISR system, tactical and strategic. In Afghanistan, we had the problem of communicating land command and control system in the field, in Kandahar, with the common operational picture tool that the ISAF commander had in Kabul. So the data has to move, right? What is information superiority in the end is the possibility to share data and information timely across our portfolio. Concluding here, again, people, process, and technology as the driver for our approach to cloud computing adoption. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Valle. If there is some question, or in case I can put myself. Have in mind that, of course, first or later, we have to deploy and use on operational theater the cloud, whatever it will be, its configuration. You mentioned the problem in Afghanistan when the national system has to interface also with, I remember, at the beginning with the NATO system. How you taken in mind these needs to interface the NATO cloud, let me say in this way, with the national cloud when it will be available?
On that one, it's extremely important that NATO nations adopt an open source architecture, right? Because today we have a developer out there, an 18 years old boy, develop an application in 2 days. The technology is there for these things, and it's open and it's available. So the first thing, it's really open source architecture for solutions, applications, communication systems, and whatever. The second aspect is standard interoperability. We need to have an agreement. How do we exchange information? It's been very struggling. We have standards, but there is the political element that kicks in over here sometimes when we need to interconnect two systems between nation and NATO. And there has been political aspects, right? What do we share with NATO? Although many work has been done around it, but the two aspects really, open system architecture and interoperability and language to exchange data and information.
Thank you. Some question? Back?
How do you see the existing
Un attimo che se per cortesia si presenta anche, grazie.
Amir Faiz from Leonardo. How do you see the current regulations and policies for management of classified information that the need to change these in order to have a more flexible cloud computing environment and for the operations of NATO?
Well, thanks for the question. It's very pertinent. Again, thank you for the question. This is really something we are extremely busy with, and it's not easy. NATO has a very obsolete security policy landscape, right? That security policy landscape is really traditional IT oriented. We have encryption policy and directive, which is oriented for data center style. They're not cloud ready. Now, what we are doing at the moment with the effort on the technical security for public cloud, we are doing an analysis of what policies and directives need to be addressed in terms of potential change to enable cloud. And the effort we are doing in this directive is highlighting, demonstrating, for instance, that we need to move away from the way we do key management, right? How do we manage our HSMs? How do we manage encryption? In the NATO, in the cloud is different. AWS is deploying 26,000 HSMs a week, virtually, from code. So that security landscape is something we are really trying to understand which one need to be changed. Personnel security, we tend to trust a system administrator in a data center just because he has a security clearance. Sometimes for 2 years we don't check that, right? So we feel safe. He has a security clearance. Insider trading, insider threat is the biggest issue we have. So we need to change the policy on personal security clearance for technical administration in the public cloud, because in the public cloud, and again knowledge, things are done differently. The administration of the services is not done in a traditional way. There is on-time administration for a specific amount of time. There is privileged access, so you can only, as a technician, monitor and manage and change that specific service, not the entire data center. So all the policy and directive that will have to be changed to enable cloud are under analysis at the moment.
Last question, Gerald Capasso.
Good morning, I'm Gerald Capasso. I'm the Chief of General Office for Space at Joint Level. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Valle. It was very interesting, and I got all the elements that I think the MOD is working on in these days, and of course NATO is doing this challenge as well. My question is, it's very important to have the cloud, it's very important to have the data. It's not a secret that we have more data than what we can process today. But I was wondering if NATO is going to do some activity in parallel on artificial intelligence, because I have the data, I have the connectivity, but it's very important to shape the product and the services for the different customers in order not to give to everybody stuff that they don't need, in order to really look in the combat view this cloud. Otherwise it's going to be another exercise where we put more energy on the activity than what we can get out of it. In other words, I think this is very important. It's the backbone for what we call multi-domain operation, because that's where we need to go. We don't need the cloud if we keep doing the things in a different domain. And I'm kind of putting together the new domain that is the space, is the fifth domain, and we are really helping all the other domains, but we are getting information from the classic domain, or allow me the term. So I think that the other side of the medal of this really important activity should be artificial intelligence, capacity of data fusion, in other words, capacity to kind of get together the big data. It's not really important what you have in the cloud, but how you get it together. Thank you.
General, thanks. The pleasure is really mine. Indeed, I fully agree. If we are doing this, has to be for a business benefit. For the sake of doing it because it's fancy, well, no. The business benefit for us is to change the way we do operations. And on the data AI ML side of the house, from an experimentation perspective, in the NATO Software Factory, we have our data AI ML team, which is already there. They have a platform for data AI and ML operations. So they're now experimenting the AI in the context also of our application landscape. So our applications and AI and machine learning can work together, C4S applications, but this is experimentation. Of course, now that NATO, like Italy, is in transformation, and we are not really fully mature. It's a journey. Now, from that perspective, we have it's been decided by the Office of the CIO, recently created in NATO at Assistant Secretary General level, reporting to private office. And this CIO first task on this area is to implementation of an AI strategy. Because, and again, like for cloud, AI and data and ML, it's not only a technical solution, there's also the business, the legal, the ethical aspect of it. We discussed a lot about the ethical aspect of AI. Therefore, that's a task for strategy. But above, at a very strategic level, NATO 2030 is looking at a big activity on emerging disruptive technology. And this emerging disruptive technology activity under the Diana program to 2030, and NATO wants to go for it in those 7 domains: quantum, 5G, AI, and so forth. So that's a little bit where we are with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valle. Ok. Ci sono altre domande durante il coffee break, o se siamo stati bravi alla fine, se non abbiamo guardato troppo il finale, perché è un argomento sicuramente interessante, però i tempi sono piuttosto stretti, quindi ci sarà sicuramente durante il coffee break delle domande. Ripeto, se siamo stati nei tempi, alla fine concederemo un altro giro di domande. Grazie, scusate, ma dobbiamo dare modo anche agli altri. Adesso infatti grazie di nuovo, dottor